We got a little bit of rain here this morning, and that is a bit inconvenient for my space. Now, as you guys know, I work out of my shop here. Actually, 90% of my work is really done in the Sprinter van there, on site doing installs. But when we do have the shop work, the shop is my 2-car garage, so that has got to change. And for that reason, as I mentioned in the last couple videos, I'm going to be moving. So I'm not only going to be moving shop spaces, I'm going to be moving houses. I think this is the right move. I have considered getting a shop, like a lease, but it's just way too expensive, and I would rather take that money that I would put towards like a commercial space and use it on a property and something that I can actually keep and not just keep paying rent. So with that said, I'm going to be showing you guys today, if you caught the last video when I showed you kind of a day in the life, what it's like running a small carpentry company. We went and looked at a project where we're going to be making some doors and drawers. So we're going to start that today. And a lot of times in the shop here, I'll use this space out here, the driveway, to set up a couple of like routers and stuff, but we can't do that today because now it's raining and all 3 guys are going to be in this 22 by 22 shop space. We're going to still knock this out, so let's go grab this material. One of the things I'm going to miss about this house too is the charm of it. What the heck? There's an armadillo in my front yard. Thirteen's like right before the dash, which I really don't want to do the dash.
Yeah.
Could I just buy the 14s and cut off 2 feet right here?
We can't cut in here anymore.
Or what about me?
No, we can't.
Oh, nobody can. Okay.
Nobody can cut on property anymore. Owner said nope.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
You cut your finger off here and it's like, they let me do it on their property. So the plan is I'm going to grab the sheets from here for our cabinet doors and drawers, and then John is going to come back in the Ram and they're going to go ahead and wrap up our stuff to protect it from the rain. I was hoping to get it in the Sprinter so we didn't have to wrap it and deal with it in the rain, but they just don't have 12s. If they had 12s like they normally do, it would have been no issue at all. Okay.
Because see,
what if we just run everything as 2 and then rip 1.5 inches at the end for what we need? Because I can still, it's not going to change anything on the router for me.
No, it only changes.
And then
only changes my panel. Right. We'll get.
So I've got my cut list here of what I need to cut up and then send to the router tables. And I've got this board right here, the material we picked up this morning, marked out. And these are all going to be cut oversized. We're not cutting them to exact what our cabinet door dimensions are. We're just going to make them like 1 or 2 inches oversized so that when we run them, if we have any tear out on the milling process, we could just chop those ends off as we inspect them. So I've got this one marked off. I'm going to go ahead and chop this one up. So I'll start stacking them here, and then John will run them at the router table. So anytime you have something like this going on where you need to make parts, it's good to have a system, and Tom is giving me my cut list for everything oversized. I'm then chopping it at the miter saw and sending it to John so he can mill it at the router table. So we'll get all of our parts with our profile on them, and then we can go ahead and get everything cut to actual size. So I'm going to be cutting everything to actual size on the panel saw. There was a little bit of math to figure out because we're using the cope and stick bits here. You've got to do some math to figure out what you lose in that joint when you're getting your stiles and rails made. If you've ever made a cabinet door before, you know what I mean. And when we're making this many, we have like 80 components. You really got to get this right. So I've got my setup here at the panel saw, and I can cut everything now with my stop to the exact dimensions. Now I know it's hard to see what's going on here, so I'm going to give you guys some slowed down footage of exactly what I mean. So here is a look at my cut list. You can see I've got 37.5. I need 2 of those. So I'll go ahead and come over here to my stop, loosen it up, and we'll dial right into 37.5. So I've got this thing dialed in perfectly. If I have that set there, I know exactly what I'm gonna get. I'll bump up against the stop and then come over here to do my cross cut, and I am done right there. So it makes it so easy because when you have cabinet doors, they need to be dead on square. So I'm gonna continue to go through that. I've got a big stack here that I'm sending to John. And one thing I'm doing is I'm keeping these in groups of 4, right? Because you have 4 components per door. And I'm writing a C on the side that John needs to cope. So John will pick them up from me, and then he'll take them to the coping bit and he'll make that cope cut on them. So he'll do it face down from our profile on one side, spin it around and make that same cope cut again. And that's what's gonna allow the doors to go together. So you can see I'm feeding them to him and he's taking them away. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about there's a little bit of math you have to do because that cope engages that stick. You have to account for that. And we had a really cool way of doing that with a block. So we're gonna dry fit everything, make sure we have every component. And thankfully this is the next day and the weather did clear up, so we were able to move outside, which is great because doing our sheets, our panels, we really needed the extra space. It would have been a nightmare in there trying to do these sheets. So thankfully the weather did clear up and we made it. So we just got everything here on site where the cabinet doors are going to be installed. We're not doing the installation, we're just doing a delivery and the boring of for the hardware. Everything's here. It's a little bit disorganized, which is my fault because through the sanding process and transportation, I didn't keep everything grouped where it should have been, but we've got our cheat sheet which we built off of, and we'll just measure each component and verify that it goes to the room that it says on our sheet here. So we'll do our delivery, get everything sorted out, and this should be a wrap on this project. But I do want to show you guys all the components that we did on our last run here. They are in paint right now. The painters are doing their prep work and their priming, so we'll go take a look at that. Doing some railing modifications, it looks like. Looks like they're going to be cutting out all this swirly detail and going back in with straight. And if you guys are longtime followers of the channel, then you know I used to do a lot of the painting myself, and it is nice to kind of be away from that and just doing the carpentry. So here they've got another room set up where they've got really smart idea, this extension ladder going across these 2 6s, and then they hang everything up on these wires. So they screw into where we board for our hardware, and they've got this wire they can just loop around. These are kind of metal wires that they can loop around, hang them from here. Looks like they've got drywall screws all in here. I mean, these guys get creative. I love it. Hang everything up and they can just create a spray booth right in here, spray everything. You can see there's one of our drawers right there. There's our doors, of course. This is awesome to see this going down. We have good painters here that are really going to take care of them. When you see painters going through all this, you know you've got some serious dudes who are going to take care of you. I know some of those guys they're called blow and go. They just come through, no prep work, done, get out. Yeah, you can definitely see all the mistakes when that happens, especially if you're using a high sheen paint. As we're going through these, we're doing the boring of our hardware like I was talking about, and that's what's going on right here. We got a little station set up on the scaffold. We got our little Summerfield Easy Bore. Bought this a while back. So it does the 3 Forstner bits, and then you end up with a perfect hole for your hardware. Outside the front door here, we have another little setup. We're ripping these strips down because when we make our doors with this profile, you can see that profile right there, the back of the door ends up in this kind of shaker style. And this is the back of a drawer, actually, excuse me. So we need to fill that that space in, because what's going to happen is when they attach this to the drawer boxes, they're keeping all the original drawer boxes, but when they attach this to the drawer box with the hardware, there's a chance that, because we use 1/4-inch plywood right here, if they screw too hard, they'll flex that mid panel and they could potentially even crack this thing. So we're taking the little Festool cordless right here and we're ripping down these strips. So you can see whenever we drop this in, it flushes it out and makes it where it fills in that void. Well, that about wraps it up for us here at this project, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this glimpse into what it's like working in a 2-car garage. And you may be wondering, why did we not do this little on-site stuff that we're doing here inside my garage in my shop? The whole thing of it is we ran out of time. We had to go fix that beadboard ceiling and reconfigure that warming drawer cabinet, if you saw my video from 2 videos ago. And I just said, I'm just gonna throw everything in the van and we'll do it on site. So thankfully we have little table saws. We have that little hinge boring jig that's you could literally throw in your tool bag. It's nice to have those little tools to do on-site stuff. I know there's big machines, like Tom has that Blum insertion machine, which is like a big press for doing the hardware, which is way more convenient. But when you are limited on time and space, you end up doing stuff like this.